But so let's just fast forward to recently.
Okay.
And I would love to know, like, what was this absolute moment that you wanted to make this statement and you wanted to make something that it's not a music video, it's not in support of
a product
or your career as we know it, but it's like an honest statement of how you see the world and your role in it.
Right. Well, I can't say the exact moment I wanted to make the film, but I can tell you that there were moments along the way that started to make me feel that I needed to make a statement, that I needed to say something about what I was witnessing. I think it started very specifically when my tour started. On this last tour, I started to notice things, and it was an amalgamation and an overabundance of things that were not nice, things that were not good, things that were signs that I felt like I should be paying attention to. The first concert we had was in Tel Aviv, and before we even arrived, there was the threat of war, of Israel bombing Iran, and that was a very real threat. And was the concert going to get canceled or wasn't it? Should we start the tour there? Should we not? You know, it was.
What did you end up deciding?
I said, we're going, we're definitely going. You know, the threat of war is not keeping me out of a country. Actually, it's an invitation. So,
well, the fight.
Exactly, the fight. It's a reoccurring theme. And then, of course, one had to examine what was going on in Iran, and it's frightening what's going on in Iran. A large part of my fan base is gay, and it's a crime punishable by death to be gay in Iran. And so that was something that was going through my mind, and you know, what can I do about this?
Do you have fans in Iran that have
Yes.
reached out to you?
Yes.
What's
I
that
do.
like? Do you engage with them?
I don't engage with them personally, but I read what they have to say, and you know, I read what a lot of my fans who are being put in prison for being gay, not just in Iran but around the world. It breaks my heart, and you know, the idea that a person would be killed for who they love is it's something I can't. I could start crying if I think about it. So let's not go down that road. A lot of times I would do sound checks and I would talk to the fans and I would ask them questions. And when I was in Kiev, when I was in the Ukraine, some of the fans started talking to me about the former president being imprisoned, and a woman. And I said, well, why was she put in prison? And they said, because the current president doesn't like her. I said, is that the only reason? And they said, yes. And I said, that's absurd, that's insane, that's unfair, that's unjust, that's inhuman. Are you going to stand for that? Can't you all do something about it? And they said, no, we will be put in jail if we do anything about it. And that struck me. And I thought, wow, this, you know, clearly isn't a democratic country. And let's go to Russia, because Pussy Riot was on trial.
Right.
I was trying to decide whether I should go to the courthouse and start stage a protest or whatever. But I mean, that whole scenario was absurd too, that these three girls were put in this cage and put on this monkey trial, and you know, for singing 30 seconds of a song that basically said that, you know, Putin was, you know, oppressing artists and women, and, you know, a hypocrite, and aligning himself with the church when he wasn't a man of God himself, or whatever. I mean, whatever they said, even if they called him the devil, they have to go to jail.
Yeah.
And the sentence was supposedly 7 years. This was also, once again, unfathomable to me, and I just couldn't believe it. And I was thinking, how can I be of service? What can I do? I talked about it on stage. I talked about the absurdity. I talked about, once again, this is, you know, against humanity. This is against freedom of expression, the rights of an artist, the rights of a human being. I can't separate those two, by the way. This really disturbed me, that it was going on in the 21st century. This is not communist Russia anymore, right? The Cold War is over.
It's a different kind of Russia, but it's not.
It's a scary
right,
kind of Russia.
Russia.
It's continuingly
and
scary.
Did the government or authorities in Russia engage with you, or are they
I believe I
harassing
received a death threat, and then I went to St. Petersburg, and I was told that if anyone showed any outward signs of being gay at my concert, that they would be arrested.
And these were police in St. Petersburg?
Yes, and statements in the press, and I was
Did you
told,
go on the offense? Did you?
I went on stage and I spoke in defense of the gay community, and I spoke against the government for this absurd law or reaction or kind of discrimination. And I was told that there were 87 arrests made that evening, and I was also sued for $1 million for making that statement.
87 arrests at the
Yeah.
concert.
Or people coming into the concert
like,
that
you're
evening,
milling
in
about,
or
yeah,
around.
in and around. To jail for being.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah, so,
And you were sued $1 million.
yeah, yes. So then another situation occurred where I was in France, and in my concert, I have a song called Nobody Knows Me, and it's a video piece, and it's about how we don't really take the time to get to know one another, and because we don't take the time to get to know one another, we make all our decisions based on fear. And when we make our decisions based on fear, that's when we give birth to any kind of phobia, bigotry, hatred, discrimination, intolerance. So there was a flash cut of Marie Le Pen. She had been running in the previous election. She and her father are very far right. One might call them fascists. I, in fact, would myself, and I believe I would be telling you the truth. I had, for one split second, a cutout of her face with a upside down swastika on her forehead. That is a symbol of fascism, even though ironically it was once a symbol of unity in India that Hitler hijacked and turned into something else. But because I showed her face with that symbol, she also threatened to sue me. She'd heard about it at a concert previous, and she said, if you show this when you come to France, I will sue you. But I showed it anyways, because I thought, wait a minute, I'm an artist. I can say what I want to say. Freedom of expression, this is my fight,
Again,
okay?
the fight. It's the fight.
So that happened, and then I had a smaller show at a theater called the Olympia, which is one of my favorite theaters in the whole world. It's a place that Edith Piaf made famous and other French singers in the early part of the 20th century, and it's a beautiful, beautiful theater. And I started making this speech about fascism, about freedom of expression, about how ironic is it that artists, African Americans, used to escape America before the civil rights movement to come to France,
right,
to
express
themselves,
yeah,
to be free to be artists. And here we are, cut to how many years later? You're no longer welcome in France if you're Muslim, if you're Jewish, if you're anything but a white French person. And people started booing me when I said that.
Wow.
But it wasn't like the fans around me. It was coming way far in the back. Anyways, when the concert was over with, I found out some people threw beer bottles on the stage, and it wasn't like a big deal, but there was some people throwing things on stage and booing, and I found out from the video cameras and people reporting to me later that there was a group of skinheads who had infiltrated my concert, who were sent there by Marie Le Pen. And they were like Heil Hitlering in the back of my concert. So this is another, like, no way, like, are you kidding me? Like, what's going on?
Right.
So every night I had a tattoo, not every night because it lasted several days. So after 3 days of vigorous scrubbing in the shower, I could change my tattoo to another statement I would want to make, or I would keep it if I wanted to continue to make that statement.
Okay.
Because at a certain point in the show, I stripped down to my underwear, and you could see the tattoo across my back. So the shooting of Malala was a big thing for me too.
Right.
A real big thing for me, that a girl would be shot for wanting to go to school.
Right.
That was her crime, that she wrote a blog about the importance of education for girls. That was another real bug up my ass, and that kept me going like crazy through the whole part of my European tour. You know, I spoke out a lot on her behalf and had her name tattooed on my back for a long time. So it got to the point where every time I was on stage, there was something going on in that city and I had to talk about it.
Right.
And implore the audience, my audience, because I'm imagining that people who come to my concerts are fairly open-minded individuals who don't think in a narrow-minded way, and imploring them to take my message out into the world of treating human beings with dignity and respect, no matter who they are, no matter what they believe in, no matter what their sexual preferences or their religious beliefs, et cetera, et cetera. So these things are all playing in my mind like a tape cassette over and over again. I'm going from city to city going, okay, this world is changing very rapidly, and maybe it's always been like this, but it's like time, space, and motion is like speeding everything up, and it's all coming. I feel like the walls were caving in on me, and so I was feeling not only that I was being oppressed or censored as an artist, but also as a human being, and also the rights of other human beings very visibly, whether you were gay or you were Muslim or whatever. And I couldn't not pay attention to it. I can't just get on stage and do my show and go back to my hotel room and, you know, have my cup of tea and go to bed. It just wasn't going to work for me.
But then that moment came when you decided that you wanted to do something.
I'm getting there. Don't rush me. Okay?
I won't.
Then I come to America. Okay?
Yeah.
It was pre-election. It was Romney versus Obama, and then of course I you know, it looked kind of scary there for a minute. Didn't you think?
It definitely looked scary.
And
well, it depends what side you're on, but yes.
Well,
it looked like he was going to lose.
But even people like open-minded, liberal-minded people that I knew were thinking of voting for Romney, and I was like, are you kidding me? So then that was like the new part of my fight.
Right.
And then I realized, you know, while I was in America, the land of the free and the home of the brave, that I felt a lot of complacency.
With the freedoms people have? Or
yeah,
had?
And I didn't get this real feeling from people in the audiences that they were going to go out and vote, that they were going to take charge of their future, that they knew that they were in charge of their destiny, but they actually weren't going to do anything about it. So then that was a new fight. Like, okay, because now we have freedom, but no one's doing anything about it because they don't need to, because they don't feel inspired, because they are.
Do you think part of the problem is that a lot of your American audiences aren't as connected to those things that you describe seeing all over the world?
I think it's because when you can have whatever you want, you forget how lucky you are, and that you forget that it's not, you take it for granted, and you stop fighting for it, you stop caring about it. And so when elections come around, you're not inspired. It's those people are aware of it because they're living in an oppressive environment every day of their life. It's palpable.
And sometimes it is life.
It is life and death. If you're getting thrown in jail for holding a guy's hand, then you're going to be paying attention to gay rights. You know, if you're not allowed to vote for who you want to vote for, then you're going to care about democracy. Here I am saying I'm so lucky that I'm from this country, and if you lived in my country, and then I'm in my country, and no one's doing anything about anything. And I'm getting booed on stages everywhere, not everywhere, but for instance, I was shocked when I got booed in New Orleans for having Obama's name on my back.
Really?
Yeah, of all places. And this happened a lot, surprisingly. I was expecting to get booed in Texas. Okay, that didn't surprise me, but I would say to people in the middle of my show, you know what? I don't care who you vote for, as long as you get out and vote for Obama. And I have a long pause.
Well, it did look really dark for him at that time. What do you think? Why? What went wrong for Obama? What went wrong? Why were people like
because
some
people
of
were
your
worried
liberal
about money. They were worried about the economy, and they didn't think he handled. You know, but he walked into a landmine. I mean, he walked. Look at like what Bush left him, just debt, and so he couldn't do any of the things he wanted to do. He just, you know, had to fix the economy, and I think people were worried about the taxing situation. They thought his ideas were too. The rich people of the world, the higher income earning people of the world weren't a fan of his, and there was also a large group of people who didn't think that he was connected enough to Israel, and the American-Israeli connection wasn't strong enough. And why did I think he was getting a hard time? Because for those reasons, it was purely money and the economy, not the moral compass of the dude who's running for office.
Has it ever been an issue for you? the tax rate, the nominal tax rate in America? Have you ever made a decision
Hey,
in your
listen,
life
you know,
about...
nobody wants to have their hard-earned money taken away from them, you know?
Right.
I can assure you, I've been in some pretty crazy situations where people have taken my money or ripped me off or whatever, and, you know, it doesn't feel good. But if you look at the bigger picture for the good of the country, are you willing to make this sacrifice or this compromise because it's going to help people in the longer run, then I'm going to be cool with that. I'm going to have to be cool with it. That's it. There is no other option. I don't want a warmonger for a president.
Right.
I don't care how much money he saves everybody.
Right.
Then what happened, which was really crazy, was that I said in one concert that, and it was a joke obviously, but you know, a lot of people don't get my sense of humor. I think I was in Washington DC, and I said, you know, it's crazy. You think about how Abraham Lincoln was the president of the United States, and he fought for abolishing slavery, and he was assassinated, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and then we cut to the march in front of the White House with Martin Luther King, and he was fighting for equal rights for people of color, and he was assassinated. So then we cut to, I said, isn't it crazy that there is a black Muslim in the White House? And I got so much shit for saying that the next day from the Obama camp, because of course I know he's not a Muslim.
Right.
His father was or is or was or something. Do I care?
Right.
I don't care what religion he is. This, as you know, doesn't matter to me.
Right.
But the fact that they got so upset about it, the fact that they like wrote me a letter, and the fact that Obama has to basically go around with his birth certificate pinned to his suit saying that he was baptized a Christian or that he is a Christian is a real big statement as far as I'm concerned about how America is not the land of the free and the home of the brave. And that really struck me. Like, how crazy is that everyone got their knickers in a twist about this scenario? And it was another epiphany for me.
Right.